Test. No, it's Arcel. And then I think there are 2 or 3 others in the first section that'll be with her. But yeah, all right. Thank you. Good to meet you.
Test. Testing. 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 Test. Testing. This is the November 14th, 2018 Children, Seniors, and Families Committee regular meeting, 2 p.m.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to begin our meeting. I apologize for starting a few minutes late, and Supervisor Cortese will be joining us. What I'd like to do is begin our meeting, and we'll move right to public comment, which is item 2, and we have one person for public comment, and that is Scott Largent, who will be speaking to an item that is not on the agenda, but is within the purview of this committee. So, Scott, if you are here, there you go.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Largent. I got my my new picture for the binder now. So I actually went to a photo place and had it developed, which was neat. I brought the wrong binder today, the one with all the coloring books, so I get to see my daughter at 4 o'clock today. So I'm pretty excited about that. I am never going to get a fair day in court in our county fighting for my child. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I believe I should have had like a change of venue. It should have been brought to another county. When you piss off the presiding judge and a lot of other people in our legal community, they come after you pretty hard. I've been working on a letter to write my ex, trying to, I guess, apologize for what I did. I've been sober now almost 3 years. This is all my fault. I've completely, all this stuff I caused. I chose drugs and alcohol over the woman I love, and I continue just to get high and live in my motorhome. That's all I cared about. I got to figure out how to make this work. What I'm doing online right now will work over time. But right now, if you look at this picture, my daughter's growing up really, really fast, and I only get to see her once a week. And I want to go back into court, but they're going to try to take this away from me. They're going to try to control me. What I'm doing is really not wrong. I'm standing up for other people that have lost their property, other drug addicts, other people that have had problems in our community. I am absolutely confused. I really am. I don't know what to do. When I tried to utilize county resources, they failed me. My ex told me, she goes, you get into a drug rehab, we can work things out, you can be in your daughter's life, if you get mental health treatment, if you all these things. Now, she kept pressing me to go do these things. As she would show up at my motorhome, she was a good sport about everything. She fought and fought to try to get me clean. I mean, she'd come over there and trash my motorhome. She'd scare all my friends away. She'd throw away my cigarettes. She'd throw my dope. I mean, she literally fought for me. She doesn't believe a single thing I say. She doesn't believe that this doesn't work. She doesn't believe you can't get drug treatment. She doesn't believe that you can't get mental health services. I have brought this up over and over again, and I don't know how to explain it to her. What do I play every meeting I ever went to explaining what didn't work? I don't know what to do. So I'm just kind of clueless today, so thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Jenny? I'm sorry. Or Jean? Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Pennypacker, and I'm the chair of the Juvenile Justice Commission. After about a year ago, the JJC learned that the lease of the rake on Embark. I know it's on the agenda, but the relocation is not on the agenda.
I'm happy to discuss both at that time if you're willing to stick around.
Sure.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you. So I'm going to then move us to item 3, which is our consent and changes to the calendar. And I'm going to make a couple of requests just because Dave is on his way. And I'd like to take item 7 first, and then I think, let's start with item 7, and then we'll go back to the regular agenda, because by then I think Supervisor Cortese will be here, and that's our youth summer camps and activities.
Good afternoon. My name is George Montes from the Social Services Agency, Office of Contracts Management, reporting on the summer camps program, inventory item number 47. This inventory item awards $350,000 to two community-based organizations, or one community-based organizations and one the City of San Jose to fulfill summer camps for the summer months. For the purpose of this report, summer months, we qualified from May to September. In terms of progress, the first contract was executed on July 16th with CAFPA. The contract was for $100,000. Year-to-date utilization was $10,978. That leaves a remaining balance of $89,000 for next fiscal year. Through this fiscal year, they served 44 clients, of which 59% attended summer camps, 41% attended enrichment activities. Enrichment activities are not structured summer camps. These are like music courses, dance courses, more unique courses to fit a person's situation or a family's unique needs at the time. The City of San Jose was executed on August 30, 2018. The contract was for $250,000, of which $100,000 is for special needs. The contract aims to provide 13 different camps and other enrichment activities. The city did not enlist any clients this fiscal year. They've experienced some challenges and ramping up, and they do plan to use this money next fiscal year for their summer camp programs. As for next steps, the challenges that we experienced this fiscal year were largely due with the late execution of the contracts. That left us with 2 months of trying to get these programs up and running, which was significantly challenged. Moving forward, what we're going to try to do is do a 3-month pre-plan phase into the summer camp programs with a 5-month activity to fulfill the full summer camp window or summer month windows. In March 2019, summer camps program schedules will be created, published. We plan to organize a registration fair. Preliminary talks are with to try to do something around the 373 parking lot and invite CBOs, the CAFPA membership, and also some of the city so we can organize that registration fair. On March 2019, we're going to concurrently ramp up for summer camps as well. The goal is to activate summer camps on May 2019 and through September 2019 and receive ongoing progress reports. At the end, we want to do an assessment of the program to assess lessons learned and to see if the program was actually effective or not. Another one thing that we plan to do is, because this particular contract was awarded for a two fiscal year timeline, that would mean that this contract would have ended on June 30, 2018. What we're going to do is, with your permission, expand that through September so we could take full advantage of the summer months. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Let me ask you, because I really couldn't remember this. Our intent was to focus this on foster youth. And did the staff make a change to that as part of contract negotiations with the City of San Jose? No changes were made. They did through some conversations. I think there was a desire to extend that to needy families. But that was not at board direction. That was at staff's change. The reason is that this doesn't reflect the board action, and I'm more asking the question. The reason I'm asking the question, and Bob, maybe this is a question I should ask you, is that originally we had asked social services staff to give us feedback on what it would cost to make sure that foster youth had access to summer programming that was longer than a week. We wanted to create an opportunity for youth to have up to 3 weeks of experience instead of just 1 and create some more flexibility. At the time, the staff came back with a $4.5 million expenditure, this is what it would cost. I think we all knew that was at the, that would be every child accessing every service with the most expensive camps that was possible. And I appreciated, I think that staff was doing that to give us the high end versus a range. My intent is still to focus this on foster youth. And what I am concerned about is that the breakout of having 100,000 go to CAPCA and 250 go to the city of San Jose, which I wanted. I think they're a really good partner, and they have a very low cost, very extensive in a lot of their community center summer camps. So I want to support that. But the expression of the direction of this feels like we might be missing an opportunity with foster youth. And I don't want to take away the opportunity for special needs youth. I think that's great. But I am concerned that it isn't money spent for children who are in our custodial care, which was my initial intent, and I think what the board voted on.
Excuse me. I think that we understood that as the intent, and I think the city had a little bit of concern about the full capacity and wanted to broaden it a little bit. But if that's the board's will, I mean, we can certainly circle back and make sure that's clear.
And also, I would just say, I have confidence. Let me just make two observations. One is that all of these kids have needs, so I don't want to take away from that. But what I also don't want to do is subsidize the city of San Jose to do work they should already be doing. And so part of the reason that I'd been very specific about the targeted populations we were talking about is they already have some number of scholarships and subsidies that they provide for some populations. And, and I think it's good that we should leverage that. So again, I'm not quibbling with the city of San Jose doing a good job of trying to figure out how to strengthen their programming. That's their job. If I was over there, I probably would have done the same thing. But I really, really don't want to miss an opportunity to focus on foster youth. And I'm particularly concerned about foster youth that are older, because there's a lot of more affordable summer programming for elementary up to middle school. But when you're in high school, if you want to play a sports camp, they're really expensive. Like Santa Clara has a baseball camp. The reason I was looking at San Jose State's is that they're the most affordable. And I have a kid that's been in every single camp, so I could actually do a whole class for all of you on the camp availability and when you have to sign up and the like. But I was also thinking about things like Hidden Villa, which is a really great program that had we gone to Hidden Villa and said, look, we'll buy X number of slots for foster youth, that would really advantage us. So I expected the first year we wouldn't spend all the money. I did not expect the first year that we would lock ourselves into contracts that wouldn't give us flexibility for the second year, which I think is my second big concern. So what I would like to ask staff to do, Bob, did you have a thought on that?
No, I was just thinking of, traditionally we just write contracts in that fashion. I was trying to think of a way that we would have it flexible year to year.
Well, I recognize that. So here's what I would like to recommend. If you all could have a conversation with CAPCA and with maybe with our own internal staff about what kinds of services and camps that their kids need. What I would want to do, and I'm happy to do this, as part of the next budget process, I would bring forward my own referral. Oh, good. Dave's here. Dave and I will bring a referral. I'm just kidding. To add resources for our foster youth. Like one of the outreach places that we don't have in any of our discussion here, unless I missed it, is the hub. Like those are our babies. Those are our kids. And I want to make sure that they want to go to band camp or fill in the blank swimming camp and they want to do it more than 1 week. I want to give them the flexibility to do that. So maybe what we do is take a look at and have the city of San Jose come back and present with you in January on how they want to use their portion of the money, have CAPCA come back with their strategy so we can actually check in on the strategy. I see in February you'll begin outreach, so if we do it our first meeting in January, we can have a conversation about that. And if there is a delta in resources, at least let us know that so that we can plan for, not next summer, because I recognize that the ramp up is still going to be a challenge, but so that we put enough money in to keep that contract going, but building in the flexibility of the foster families to be able to identify programming for their kids. That's really what I'd like to see us be doing.
No, that's a great recommendation. In response to your earlier question about the concentration of the population served, I am looking at the City of San Jose contract, and it is specific for kinship and foster youth, probation youth, CalWorks, and CalFresh. But something that I am noticing is that this contract it does expire through June, so we have an opportunity to amend it for the needs of the community.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
so let's have a conversation. Like that would be great. And I raised San Jose State, but like I really would. Someone should reach out to Hidden Villa. They do leadership camps that are just really life altering and therapeutic, and and there are probably moms and dads in your very department who do the summer scramble. That can give some insight to the kinds of places we'd want to go. And the other thing is we should look at all the universities. San Jose State, Santa Clara, Stanford has a program, for the older kids where we say to them, look, you have some need to do good. We have some cash. Let's split this and figure out a way to make sure that kids, irrespective of their ages, have access. And I love the idea of using it for music lessons and other things. That's great too. So it doesn't have to just be summer camp. That's really smart. I don't know who thought of that, but that's brilliant.
Great. We're happy to do that.
Okay, so we'll see you in January then with some ideas, and whatever that delta is, let us know, because I'd really like
Thank
to
you.
get kids to camp. Thank you for your good work. I appreciate it. Dave, I'm sorry, did you want to add anything to that? Okay, so we just went to item 7, but we can go to item 4, and this is our evidence-based practice with probation.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Mariel Caballero. I am the Deputy Director of Probation Administration, and with me I have our Evidence-Based Program Manager, Julie Posadas Guzman, and our Deputy Chief of Juvenile Services, Mike Sims. So our No, it's just the PDFs. Is it possible to? I apologize, trying to get our ledge file up. So this report is a report back from the May 1st, 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting, where Supervisor Cortese requested that we provide some information related to evidence-based intervention programs, including mentoring programs for youth ages 14 and younger. Okay, that's fine. That's all right. We apologize. We're having some technical difficulty. So unfortunately, we can't put our stuff up on the screens. However, just to give you a little bit of background information, the department's approach to evidence-based programs is to use a risk-need responsivity model, which provides a foundation for how adults and juveniles in the criminal justice system should be assessed based on the risk they present to the community and what services they may need and what kind of environments they should be placed in to reduce recidivism. We use the R&R to help us determine which programs and interventions our youth need. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie to talk a little bit about how we went about putting this table together that is attached for you, and talking a little bit about our plans related to contract monitoring and fidelity monitoring.
Thank you. Part of the best practice model when we're dealing with evidence-based programs is to properly catalog them. So luckily, we have a results first clearinghouse, which has a database which stores all the programs that can be utilized for either juveniles or adults, especially those within the criminal justice field. And we were able to utilize this database to look at the contracted programs we have for juvenile services and be able to rate those EBP strategies based on whether or not the programs and the strategies were of a high level of evidence or high rated. We have another category of EBP strategies that have found to be impactful, but they're second highest rated. And we also have programs that are effective but have not yet been rated. There's not enough rigorous research on that. So within our matrix that we provided you, we've ranked them based in those three areas: highest rated, second highest rated, and not rated. So we have about 18 contracts that we put together a matrix on with regards to utilizing that database. We also understand that along with properly categorizing our EBP strategies, we need to understand how they're being utilized, how they're being implemented. So another key best practice within evidence-based strategies is to look at adherence. Once again, how is that program being delivered? Dosage, how much of a program is being delivered? For example, if we're dealing with a low-risk juvenile versus a high-risk juvenile, it's going to depend on how much dosage we work with them and how much the contract providers intervene and work with them. And then, of course, the quality of delivery. What is the manner that our providers are working with our clients? Are they responsive to their needs? Are they engaged, and so forth? Once again, this is an ongoing practice that we're doing with regards to EBP. So we've also started this year in monitoring our contracts for evidence-based fidelity. And we put together an EBP tool. We are working with our contracts right now to really ask those questions related to fidelity. How are they doing staff development? How are they doing client engagement and case management? What is their quality management around really not just utilizing a program, but implementing it in a way where we know it's being effective? So those are just some of the things we're doing with regards to evidence-based practices within our department.
The request also asked for information related to specifically to mentoring programs. So the probation department has 3 main contracts related to mentoring, the first of which is the Neighborhood Safety Unit Fellowship, which is jointly funded between the Board of Supervisors and JJCPA. The Bright Pathways Mentoring Program, which is specific to our prevention and our early intervention diversion programs, which is funded also through JJCPA. And then the CAFA program, which is Court Appointed Friends and Advocates, which is a very high-level mentoring program that includes a mentor who attends court on behalf of the youth and actually talks about what they've been doing in their mentoring sessions in the courtroom. And so there's very rigorous training. All of our mentoring programs followed the best practices for mentoring, which was developed by the National Mentoring Organization. And when we did our RFP, we ensured that all of our programs followed those best practices. So we feel confident that we can say that those programs are highest rated because they're based on those best practices. So at this time, we're happy to go through each of the programs if that's what the committee would like, or we can take questions.
Dave, what's your preference? This is your...
Yeah, I just would like, I guess, go through them enough so that we know what they actually do. So I understand the risk. I understand the risk analysis, you know, which is sort of the evidence base on the front end. This is what we've got here, and this, you know, in terms of symptoms or behavior or whatever. So evidence base on the mentoring side, I'm curious as to what these programs do. You know, what are the specifics of the programs? If you can just give us a top line on that. How many kids are actually involved or referred to NSU or the court-appointed court advocates mentoring program? How many kids are they handling? How many youth? And then what is the mentoring actually consist of?
Sure.
Because not all mentoring's built the same. And we have, even here in the county, among county employees, we have folks that are signed up for the iMentor program, which is one style of mentoring, and it's good and it does certain things. It may not be applicable to these youth or to a higher risk analysis youth here. And then there's other programs that, for example, that we contract with and so forth that do, you know, also do one-on-one assigned mentors, but, you know, at a different level of interaction, you know, goal setting and so forth. So I'm just asking for a little more specifics.
Absolutely. So I would direct you to packet page 9, and we can go through some of those individual programs. So, for example, the Neighborhood Safety Unit programs, they're based on the same RFP and the same contract style. So, for example, the NSU Fellowship Program includes mentoring, technology, culturally based curriculum, civic engagement, service learning projects, and group activities. And it's for 10 to 15 youth in both East San Jose and then an additional 10 to 15 youth in Gilroy. And these are managed by 2 separate contractors, one for East San Jose, one for Gilroy. They meet weekly with groups lasting 2 hours each week, and they have an estimated 4 to 6 months long program. They include the National Compadres Network curriculum as part of the Rites of Passage program. So that's the NSU programs. I believe that is more of a group mentoring style, although the program is looking at how to connect with individual mentoring, but most of the program services are done in a group fashion as a fellowship cohort together. For example, and that's different than our Bright Pathways program, which is with Connection to Community, which I mentioned is part of our Prevention Early Intervention program, and that's a service length of 1 year. They meet weekly. They use the Unlocking Futures International curriculum, but it's an individual mentor, so it's a one-to-one mentoring component, and they meet a minimum of 2 hours per month, but they can also meet more if that's what the mentor and the youth decide they want to do. CAFA, as I mentioned, is actually quite more extensive. It is specifically for youth who are official wards of the court and are also going to court regularly. So it is for youth between the ages of 13 to 18, and their program is 12 to 15 months, and we actually have varying levels of service based on sort of intervention level of the youth. So they can get anywhere from 4 to 8 hours of service per month, and their training is quite extensive. It's a one-to-one mentor, so one youth, one mentor for 12 to 15 months. And then that mentor also makes a commitment to not only write court reports, but to attend court with the youth. And we found that that's been quite successful because it gives someone who is really speaking about the youth in a very positive way and talking about things that the youth, how they're growing and learning in the court process. So it kind of has another advocate in the room, which is why it's called Court-Appointed Friend and Advocate.
And what are they modeled after a national mentoring style like the other two?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, all of our mentoring programs have to adhere to best practices, which include things like ensuring everyone's been live scanned, ensuring that there's a minimum level of training, ensuring that they understand how to do, if a crisis occurs, what do they do, who do they call? Not all of them use a curriculum. Only Bright Pathways does use a specific curriculum, but they all have specific Bright best practices that we require that they achieve.
And then just in terms of sort of the ultimate evidence-based, I guess, analysis on any of these, recidivism itself, well, I don't want to opine on why that's important or what my observations have been, other than to say it seems to me that, again, ultimately, if one curriculum style in application of mentoring, say like Bright Pathways or a court-appointed, is reducing recidivism, by 2/3 of what the standard would be otherwise, then that's important information to have for me. And I only say that to draw a rough analogy, and it is rough because we're talking about mentoring now, not reentry, but on reentry, I think we base a tremendous amount of our assessment as supervisors as to how well that's working, not only on what the components are and what, the cohorts that are meeting and the kinds of services available there, but at the end of the day, what's that recidivism rate look like relative to what was happening, with parolees before realignment. And so I don't know if you have that information today, but that would be really good information to have either today or off agenda.
We're happy to provide our JJCPA evaluation, which actually looks at both of these, at least the 2 mentoring programs. I think both of these programs technically started their first year of contract was last fiscal year, and so we may not have a full year. Our last JJCPA report was on calendar year 2017, but what we're hoping to do in the future is that then we can compare next year's report, 2018's report, to 2017 and see if there's been an impact on recidivism. So we're happy to share the evaluation report so that you can get some baseline information, and then perhaps come back once we have the new evaluation report finished in 2018, which will be sometime this summer of 2019, to kind of report on how these programs did. But we don't have that information today.
Yeah, I think both would be great for us to get, almost like dashboard information, but I don't expect a weekly or monthly dashboard, but periodic reports on what the recidivism with these mentored youth is looking like ongoing. And I realize that doesn't create juxtaposition with a baseline. You won't have that until year two. I'm clear, but I think both would be good for us to see ongoing recidivism, obviously without names and identifiers, but youth 1, youth 2, youth 3, this is the experience, this is the program, this is what happened in terms of recidivism. And then obviously the larger, more aggregate evidence-based information, year 2 against year 1, that type of thing. And let me just say philosophically, the reason I say that is because I think one of the benefits of having a relatively reduced juvenile population that are either in juvenile hall or in and out of juvenile hall relative to where we were a few years ago is that in a couple areas it allows us, I think, the ability to zoom in on individual case experience a little bit more. I mean, if we had the same staff and the same capacity and we had 300 kids that were being mentored in 3 different programs, it would be hard, if not unproductive, to just try to get in and report to a committee like this, in a legislative way, what's happening on a case-by-case basis. I feel the same way about, and I've mentioned it here before, about ethnic and racial representation in the system. I think when we had much bigger numbers, there were much broader base, systemic challenges put out by elected officials like me. Like, hey, we need to attack, these disproportionate trends that we see in the system. And I think recidivism is a similar phenomena in that when you reduce the pool of people that you're dealing with, it should increase our ability to go in and focus on, the history of what's happening with that particular case, so that then we can determine. The whole point of it is not to blame or grade it out. The point of it is, what can we learn by looking at that thread, of activity, which would include incarceration, from day 1 through day 365 or whatever it is. And I also think it helps us, if these are good best practices, that kind of information, that kind of focus will help us with the counter narrative to, kids come in, you guys put some programs on them, you let them back out, they reoffend, and the county's bad. As opposed to the narrative that, well, you know what, Bright Pathways did have some recidivism, but 2/3 of the kids, I'm making that up, I don't know what their numbers are, but 2/3 did not re-enter the system. And I don't think we have that information. But to the third, if those numbers were real, to the third that is reoffending, I think we do owe our partners, external partners, police departments and everyone else, a deeper dive into, why didn't the mentoring work with them as well as it did with the other 2/3? Or is there something about those cases that needs to be handled a little bit differently? Those are I'm just trying to justify the reason for my request, because I don't want it to feel to you that I'm asking for reports, just for the sake of, it's not busy work to me. It's work that in this day and age with this particular census or population that we have, we could focus in a little bit more on things like recidivism. But I do appreciate the report and the overview of the programs that we're using and the different styles of programs that we're using. And maybe at the end of the day, if one of these methodologies seems to be in general working a lot better, based on that kind of data that we see, we may want to, up here on the investment side of the organization, we may decide we want to do a lot more of it. So that would be the ultimate silver lining.
So, thank you. We'll be happy to provide those JJCPA reports to the committee because I think one of the things that we know related to that is that we do track recidivism for those programs that are through JJCPA and YOBG. And for example, our prevention early intervention cohort has anywhere between 2 and 4% recidivism in any given year. And that's been fairly consistent for the department. So only 2 to 4% of the youth in that program, and that's our largest program because it's our diversion, come back to the department within 1 year. So that's exciting and good information to have when we're having these conversations about what should we be doing more of and what should we be doing less of. So we'll be happy to present that information or to provide that information to you as it becomes available.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't have any questions. Dave did a very good job of diving in, and thank you for bringing us the report. Just for the rest of the agenda, I want to make a couple of recommendations. We're going to take item 5 and 6. We've already dispatched with item 7. On item 8, this is the first 5 annual report, and I had asked staff if it would be better to wait until Jolene could be in our presence, and the staff, the first 5 staff has suggested that would be possible if we deferred it till January, and so we'll go ahead and do that so that we can see Jolene and tell her we hope she feels better. Item 9 is our senior nutrition program. We're going to put that on consent and then ask staff, and I saw Jim in the back, to work with through the county exec's office. Oh, there you are, Jim. There's a referral that's gone through the county exec's office where they've hired a consultant to work on transportation issues relative to the county. And I don't know if they've reached out to you, but I want to make sure that based on the report you just gave us, that we do make sure that senior nutrition is included in any report that comes back to the board relative to transportation. And I apologize that I think it's under Harry Freitas that study's being done, but I'm not certain about that. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Item 10 is our universal access to child care. This will be coming to the board in December. I had made a full board on December 4th. I'd made a request, and it sounds like I confused the staff. And so, Bob, I'll just be very clear about what I was asking. Many of you know that myself and Supervisor Cortese, along with Supervisor Yeager, voted to increase, to put a sales tax increase, a general sales tax increase of a half cent on the election day that just occurred. And it takes 4 votes, we received 3. But one of the reasons that I think a number of us were interested in expanding the pool of resources available to us is we didn't understand how we were going to further expand into childcare and early learning. And so what I'd specifically wanted to understand from staff is what resources were available for universal access, for childcare. There are a number that we're already accessing, but what was outstanding that we hadn't accessed? And I want to make sure that gets responded to by the time we get to the board. And what I was particularly interested in is understanding whether or not, for example, whether or not there were resources available through whole person care that maybe we hadn't considered, Mental Health Services Act money we hadn't considered. I understand the governor-elect has a really high interest level in this, so I don't know if there were bills that had floundered in the past that may be reintroduced, but I wanted to make sure that was presented to the board, because if there are not significant options, the board needs to then understand that we're going to be investing in a pilot program that won't be growing.
Yeah, that's no problem. We can fill out the inventory there.
Great, thank you. And then on item 11, this is our intergovernmental relations. I thought the report spoke for itself, so I would like to put that on consent. So we would be adding 8, 9, 10, and 11 to consent with the comments that were just made.
That's agreeable?
All right. So that passes, which that means is that we have item 5, 6, and 12 left on our agenda, 12, 13, 14. So we'll now move then to item 5, and that's the Cross Systems Coordinated Report. And thanks to the staff for all of your work on those other items.
Am I on? I think I'm on. Okay. Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Arcel Vasquez Bluma with the Office of Cultural Competency. A team of us is here today to present on the next installment of the Cross System Coordinated Report to support child safety and well-being. I will let my co-presenters introduce themselves.
Francesca Ledre, Director of the Department of Family and Children Services.
Mike Sims, Deputy Chief, Juvenile Services.
The focus of the present report is to present key efforts that, if fully implemented, are believed to improve child safety and well-being. And this is done by deliberately tracking process implementation. Then we can begin to evaluate how these strategies link to specific child and family outcomes. Today's report begins to more robustly present data associated with these target strategies aimed to reduce gender neglect referrals and increase family voice. The report is composed of two main sections. Section 1 focuses on community prevention, early system diversion strategies, and cross-system partnerships to reduce gender neglect referrals. Section 2 focuses on the implementation and organizational support of the child and family practice model, as well as the use of child and family team meetings to elevate family voice in strategies that support child and family safety and well-being. A third section is dedicated to emerging issues or noteworthy topics that agencies want to share with CSFC. As has been shown in other presentations to CSFC, this is the logic model that guides the present report. It is included in each report to let members of the public know how the vision, organization, and goals of the present report were formulated. There are a couple of highlights to note on this slide. First, early community prevention through the work of the culture brokers is well established and credited along with other cross-system and community partnerships for early signs of reductions in the rate of referral for general neglect. Second, SSA's technology division has successfully implemented a master data management system that will allow intra-agency data integration and thus more robust understanding of families' experiences and needs accessing social services. In this next slide, I would like to highlight probation's redesign of the Prevention and Early Intervention Unit was informed through a racial equity lens that led to the dissolution of the direct referral program and implementation of a three-tiered approach to prevention practice that includes letter of acknowledgement and encouraging conversations with youth, referrals to community service learning opportunities, and Tier 3 behavioral health services through treatment-focused services. Second, implementation infrastructure to support of the child and family practice model is transitioning to DFCS to allow deeper and wider integration. Finally, DFCS and SSA Office of Research and Evaluation developed a report to establish baseline data on the degree to which families entering child welfare experience a child and family team meeting. Now we will move to Section 1 of the report, focus on community prevention and early system diversion.
Francesca Ledred, Department of Family and Children Services. The Title 4E California Wellbeing Project provides an opportunity for Santa Clara County to use federal funds more flexibly in order to test innovative approaches to child welfare service delivery and financing. Using this option, counties have been able to design and demonstrate a wide range of approaches to reforming child welfare and improving outcomes in the areas of safety, permanency, and well-being. The Wellbeing Project allows child welfare and probation departments to offer federal foster care supports to children and families not normally eligible for support, for Title 4E support, and provides funding for certain services not normally covered under the Title 4E. The Wellbeing Project focuses on two state-mandated foundational components, one being prevention and the other being family-centered practice. The prevention for probation is the wraparound service, which is using or providing youth with wraparound that are exhibiting delinquency risk factors that put them at risk of entering the foster care system. With regard to family-centered practice, the Department of Family Children Services is using safety organized practice. We refer to it as SOP, and the core practice model, focusing on services that prevent home removals and support less restrictive placement options. The Cultural Broker Program began in December of 2016, and it facilitates communication and bridges cultural gaps between department staff and families by using ethnic and cultural experts from the community. The department, in collaboration with 3 community agencies, International Children Assistance Network, ICANN, Unity Care, and Conexión, the CARAS program, Community Agency for Resource Advocacy and Services, started this pilot program with the intention of decreasing disproportionality and disparity and increasing well-being for children and families. 6 communities or zip codes were the targeted areas. 95111, 95112, 95116, 95122, 95127 from East San Jose, and 95020, which is Gilroy, or part of Gilroy. These are some of the areas that the data will show had a marked disproportionate rate of child abuse and neglect referrals for children, for youth of African ancestry and Latino backgrounds. We paired the cultural broker partners directly with our emergency response social workers at both of our regional offices, Julian and South County. The cultural brokers assist with immediate response and 10-day referrals. In other words, our cultural brokers will respond with social workers on the first knock on the door with the family. Since the launch of the program in December of 2016, through June 30th of 2018, the Cultural Broker Program has received 555 referrals, and over 69% of those families referred enrolled in services offered by the Cultural Broker. What you'll see here is a breakdown of the referrals by ethnicity and language, and you'll notice that the predominant communities served are of Latino ancestry, followed by Asian Pacific Islander and African ancestry. This slide shows the service needs for the families presented to the cultural brokers. The need for mental health services was 23%, parent education 22%, legal services 13%, domestic violence 9%, and general education needs 9% were among the highest service priorities for the families. 69% of the families that received the services were receptive to receiving this through either the cultural broker or some other community agency. The great news is that we actually did see a reduction in the number of referrals from those particular zip codes. Before we'll get into that data, The idea was to assist in to prioritize and launch the prevention strategies within the zip codes that had the highest rates of general neglect. We worked with the partners to collaborate and team to leverage the resources to educate and train the community in these identified areas and to identify the gaps and find the resources to fill them. The slide shows a sampling of the services in East San Jose and the report outlines the information in further detail for the Gilroy. So you'll notice that these are some of the activities and the approaches that we took for East San Jose, and all of them have been with great results, as you'll see here. Since the launch of these supports, the rate of unduplicated children in referrals with general neglect allegations dropped in the north side, the Alum Rock, Mayfair, and Gilroy communities. And so you'll notice here the volume of cases and referrals. The rate of unduplicated children with substantiated general neglect allegations dropped for all areas with the exception of Mayfair. And we are developing early implementation of new and expanded areas, and we hope to see significant gains over a course of time. I'm transferring this over to probation.
A few of the programs that I wanted to highlight during this period was a prevention and early intervention program that you heard about a little earlier. And now this program is primarily a diversion program for low-level and early juvenile offenders referred to the probation department. And we employ a least restrictive model with these youth. The program has been retailored to a three-tiered system, which would include, as you can see from the chart, the first level is a letter of acknowledgement or encouragement, and this is for first-time low-level offenders. Second level will be an offering of services, a community service learning, which is a restorative justice program that engages the youth in public service work along with education and other services, and it's a way of giving back to the community in a way and connect them to the community in a restorative justice framework. The third tier is a higher level, which requires a behavioral health service referral, and they are given services, treatment-focused services, CBT services through a community-based organization to address the higher level of need. Now, these programs address all four life domains: personal, family, school, and community, through referrals, again, to community-based organizations for counseling, mentoring, victim services, parenting classes, parent-teen mediation, and job search as some of the services that are offered. Now, we spoke about recidivism a little earlier. The measurement for PEI recidivism is based on petition or convictions after the youth exit the program, their first sustained petition after. In calendar year 17, 1.7% of the youth who received verbal reprimand, or as I recall, a letter of reprimands at the time with no additional services, recidivated. That's 1.7%. And over the last 3 reporting periods, this group has risen to 2%. It's kind of stabilized around 2% of these youth reoffend. For those youth who receive a higher level of service in the same calendar year, 2.4% recidivated after services. Again, these are relatively low levels of recidivism for this population. Some of the changes came about as a revision of this program was the dissolution of the direct referral program, which was a program that was used to provide services to first-level offenders. This was seen as not in line with best practice, as we were giving the youth more services than were required for the level of sophistication. And again, with evidence-based practice, it shows that when you overprogram the youth, give them too many services, the wrong kind of services, you can actually do harm, not good. Two other programs I'd like to highlight, the CAFA program. Now, this is a deferred entry of judgment program. This is where this focus came from, because we saw that a high percent of African American youth were failing deferred entry of judgment. The idea was to fashion the CAFA after the CASA, which is a dependency court, to provide support and service mentoring for the youth involved in the delinquent court. The CAFAs proved to be extremely successful, and it started as a pilot but was extended for 2 years to include Hispanic youth as well, based on the success we were having with the African American population that were in this program. The program also includes 12 to 14 months of weekly mentoring from a community member who also writes court reports and appears in court on the youth's behalf. And again, this is the advocacy and support in a system where sometimes can be daunting for our youth. The last program I want to highlight is to address the time of probation and its dismissal assessment worksheet. This was a result of the Race, Equity, and Justice Systems Work Group, analyzed data from 2015 to 2016 with several key indicators. The committee found that Black and Latino youth were spending a longer average time on probation. For the median time for probation, for instance, for Caucasian youth, the median time was 308 days. Black youth experienced 368 days, and Latino youth and Asian youth experienced 366 days for similar offenses. Now, time on probation will increase based on the risk level, as we spoke about earlier in terms of the duration and the amount of services, or the amount of services that youth need based on their risk level. So that will vary, but we have found that this was across the board. So what was done in response to that was, in August of 2016, the dismissal assessment worksheet was implemented. And this was a tool that was developed with a collaboration to assist a deputy probation officer to consistently assess the appropriateness of youth dismissal from formal probation. This gave the staff a guideline to more systematically to try to remove bias out of that system, and looked at how we can make it equitable for all youth in the county.
As noted earlier, implementation infrastructure of the Child and Family Practice Model has been transitioned to DFCS in support of deeper and wider integration of the model throughout the department. SSA teams will continue to support the work as appropriate. In support of deeper integration of the Child and Family Practice Model, managers and supervisors are engaging in what is termed a snapshot conversation to explore their perspectives in order to identify organizational structures needed to improve child welfare practice and use of the tools. On this next slide, we show data on the CFPM observer assessments of social worker-family interactions, as well as responses from family circles of support. Data show that both DFCS staff and community observers find high levels of behaviors consistent with the values and principles of CFPM, such as in question 1, where the family and their teams discuss supporting relationships important to the child. And some mild divergence is observed in question 3 among participants, which asks whether the participant agrees that the plan makes sense and the team thought of everything necessary to support the family, where family circles of support scored the item a bit lower at 8 on a scale from 1 to 10, compared to family and DFCS staff who scored the question a bit higher. A bit of divergence and lower scoring is observed for the question regarding consideration of families' culture, values, beliefs, and traditions in developing the case plan. This is the first analytic report that begins to settle on the method of tracking child and family team meetings. Continuum of Care Reform recommends that all families of children entering into care have a CFT meeting to support case planning in a manner that elevates family and youth voice. However, DFCS wants 100% of all families, whether receiving family reunification or family maintenance, or whether receiving voluntary or court services, to experience a CFT meeting within 60 days of case opening. DFCS is working to phase this extended approach into their service delivery model. This baseline report shows that 22% of all families experience a child and family team meeting within 6 months of their case start date for the period of January through March of 2018. The rate was higher for families with children entering into the foster care system, which was 34%. The report recommends allocation of resources to fully support implementation of CCR, Continuum of Care Reform, which includes coordination of a child and family team meeting within 60 days of children entering into care. Added resources will improve social workers' ability to coordinate and ensure that all families have a CFT meeting. It should also be noted that all families in DFCS have a CFT, a child and family team, which is distinguished from a child and family team meeting, which is a family circle of support that keeps connected to the family throughout the case. As part of the process evaluation, as part of the process evaluation for the Well-Being Project, researchers from the National Council on Crime and Delinquency surveyed agency staff and stakeholders. The survey questions were designed to elicit perceptions as to how DFCS was integrating and applying the practice model. The web-based survey was made available to staff and stakeholders for several weeks in September of 2017. Approximately 230 staff and 65 stakeholders responded. It is worth noting that DFCS markedly increased participation for both the staff and stakeholder surveys, ensuring that the results are representative of the agency as a whole and can therefore be utilized to improve how the practice model is delivered. For example, the proportion of staff and stakeholders who responded with always or often to question 9, which is the last one on the slide, how often does your child welfare agency support families' beliefs and or traditions in case planning, was low, ranging in a score of 42 to 61%. We can therefore use, the department can therefore use this information to strengthen how social workers are trained and coached in this area. And lastly, this is a section on emerging and noteworthy issues. Healing trauma is a core principle of the child and family practice model. New developments in this area include the creation of SSA Always Champions, and this is a team of staff who will develop strategies to broaden a picture of wellness throughout the agency. And also in process is the hire of a new manager who will oversee and coordinate implementation and evaluation of a system-wide trauma-informed and healing-focused framework. This work will be connected to the cross-agency service team work to co-develop elements of the framework, evaluation strategy, and support professional development of staff system-wide. And this concludes our presentation, and we are open to questions and comments. Thank you.
So I just want to make a couple of comments. One, I want to thank you very much for the report and all of the really digging in work that you all have done. It's really tremendous. And I think of particular interest was the role of the cultural brokers. You know, I know it's a newer practice for us. I know other places have been doing it, and I wonder, as you look at the results of the cultural brokers, do we have enough time under our belt to say what, if any, next steps need to be taken in that program, or is it something that you want to wait a little longer and learn a bit more, you know, on?
We started with using cultural brokers to respond to the 10-day referrals. We saw the success there, and then we moved it to responding with our immediate response. So I think we need a little bit more time to see how that pans out, but it does show good promise. and we are using our research team to help us better understand what it is how we can enhance and move it forward, even moving it to open cases, because that's how we are now moving it. Now we're hearing families say, well, I heard about the cultural brokers. And so we are allowing, if you will, expanding the contractors to be able to serve families and go out so that there is a warm handoff or better understanding, or bridging those gaps of understanding from a cultural lens.
Thank
so
you.
We're working within the context of the contract, and once we have a better understanding, then we can move that forward.
On slide 12, you had a list of, I'm trying to remember if it was service needs. Let me just look real quick. I probably have it right in front of me.
This was the general, the reduction of general neglect referrals.
Yes, maybe go to 13. I'm just looking to see. I wrote a.
No, maybe
so,
11.
12, I think actually 12 was what prompted this. I was intrigued with with what, from a needs perspective, that, like, if we took a look at this and said, oh, and that, therefore that means we need X, what that need would be. And the example I would use is that in a presentation that I saw a couple days ago, there was a discussion about the increased desire, really request for parenting classes in particular, and of a specific type of parenting class. And by that I mean, there were some people who thought, oh no, we need more parenting classes that are in other languages, or more that are culturally structured in a way that allows the trainer to do a better job of working with the family. And I wonder, from looking at your results, if you've said, one of the resources we might want to make more available to families is X or Y.
We actually started a parent advisory group. I've met with the parents now. This is my third month. Super engaging parents who, quite frankly, some were unified with their children, and we have about 2 that actually their children were adopted out. And they are amazing and inspirational. They keep us real in terms of how it is that we're doing. And what they are saying is what they need is parent mentors. Someone who has walked the walk, talked the talk, lived their shoe and their shoes. So somebody with lived experience to be able to just mentor and coach them through the process and inform them of what's to come. They are such a great team of parents. They are going to be working on the parent orientation training and what they felt is more relevant for them to know, and in stages. So they are even willing to put together a little video and YouTube the parent orientation so that everyone has access, because they were saying, I may not be ready when you offer it. I may need to go back at my own time and do this. So the mentor piece is what the parents themselves are saying would be incredibly helpful to them. So we're still learning and exploring the various services components that are most needed from a prevention standpoint.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the report. I don't have any other questions, and Dave doesn't either, so thank you. And it's really well done. I mean, a lot of hard work in there. Thank you very much. We're going to move on then to item 6, and this is to discuss the rake. And I'm going to ask the staff to come forward on the rake, and I'm here. Okay. If there's anybody else. Oh, so Francesca, you'll do this one too?
Yes.
Okay.
I will. So Francesca Ledred, Director of the Department of Family and Children's Services, and during the October 10th, 2018 Child Senior Family meeting, the rake report was deferred to today, and as of today, the short-term plan for the rake is to remain at the MBORG, and the long-term plan is still the East Valley Master Plan. This report is to provide clarifying information as it relates to the co-location and the coordination of the rake, as well as other questions that District 2 had. We were asked what's the best practice for providing shelter services to children at the rake when compared to other counties. And the department, we reached out to several California counties: Alameda, Contra Costa, Imperial, Kern, Monterey, Orange, Placer, and San Diego. And in this small sample, co-location is the service delivery model that is primarily used. So what co-location refers to, it's strategies that place services in the same physical space that the children and youth sleep and eat. The variety of these services varied from county to county. All of the co-located services provided medical and behavioral health screenings, but some of the noted counties offered a wide array of services beyond that. So the co-location of services as it relates to the East Valley Master Plan will have Spark and the Spark Clinic co-located next to the Rake living quarters. Within the East Valley Master Plan, there's also a variety of other coordinated services on campus to include behavioral health. Currently, the Rake has coordinated services with behavioral health and Spark. Behavioral specialists will go to the Rake to provide mental health assessments, and Rake staff drive children to the Spark, which is 5.5 miles away, to receive their medical clearances. The Spark and behavioral health are located in buildings next to each other, so the children and youth are usually scheduled at the same time to complete both their medical assessment and their medical clearance. The Rake, as it stands now, currently has one small multi-purpose room, and it's used to deliver the coordinated services to children and youth. The challenge continues to be the space limitations within the Rake, and our hope is to be able to build out the Rake in the next year, as the plan today is for us to remain at NBORG. What the build-out would consist of is essentially structural improvements that our SSA and fleets and facilities will undertake to create a more usable space and improve the quality of life, security, and maintenance and the daily functions. We're actually in the process of moving some of the staff that are currently housed at the Rake back to our Julian campus to create more space until a more final plan is reached. There was a question as to whether or not proximity would make it easier for services to be provided. And I guess anecdotally, a close proximity is always a good idea, as it offers easier access to the services. However, we are able to support the children by having services such as behavioral health come out to the Rake. Not only to provide assessments, but also to engage the youth and who may need other services. And our staff are transporting youth to their various appointments, be it medical, dental, or optometry. You also asked about family finding, and we have in fact hired 2 extra help social workers to support our family finding efforts. In September, the board, we requested of you, the Board of Supervisors, approval for an additional social worker and supervisor to implement the foster parent recruitment, retention, and support program. That position is intricately combined with the family finding efforts, and we are actually in the process of interviewing for those positions. We hope to be able to hire that position by the end of the year. Retired Judge Edwards has been a constant proponent of relative placement, and he urged me to work with actually one of my former supervisors when I was in Los Angeles County, and her name happens to be Jennifer Lopez. I reached out to Jennifer Lopez in Los Angeles. She is a regional administrator over what's referred to as Santa Fe Springs. Santa Fe Springs office has an 80% relative placement for all of their children. If you can imagine the size of a Los Angeles DCFS regional office, it's larger than this county. And so we have been in communication through great support from Judge Edwards, and in February, Jennifer Lopez will be coming to Santa Clara County to help us learn about her policies and procedures and help us put us on track to be able to succeed in that area. One of the areas that Los Angeles is working on is they've actually used the CLEAR system, and they're putting their family finding efforts at the front end, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing. We have identified one person that we can move to our Court Intervention Services Bureau so that they can start the family finding efforts at the front of the process versus once a child already goes into the shelter or even goes into another foster home. That essentially concludes the presentation. I don't know if you have any questions.
We have a few speakers, so what I'll do is I'll invite the speakers to come up, and then we'll give feedback. So, Jean, take two. Ms. Pennypacker. Penelope Blake to be followed by Stephen Dick, and feel free to come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Pennypacker, and I'm the chair of the Juvenile Justice Commission. And actually, my presentation has been answered. I had a lot of questions, and the questions was the relocation of the rake. When this whole thing began about a year ago, when the lease was going to be terminated at the end of this year, we asked for transparency as to what was going to be the options for the rake, and we knew that one of the options was taken off the table. And now I'm glad to know that we have a formal plan about where we are going to go with the rake. And that's really the reason why I came up here, is to find out what's happening. So thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
Hello, I'm Penny Blake, and I am on the Juvenile Justice Commission, and I'm chair of the RAIC Inspection Committee. And although I also had some questions about where we were going with the rake now and in the future, some of that has been addressed today. So I'll focus mostly on what's happening out there right now, which is of concern to us as you know, doing inspections and so forth are part of our oversight requirement of the Juvenile Justice Commission. And so on a daily basis, as we're trying to figure out where the rake's going to go and what model it's going to take, we still daily have to take care of these children and do our best in doing that. And because of many factors, many of them beyond the control of the agency, we understand that the state makes rules. It comes down with CCR reform and all of these other things. But as a result, or what appears to us a result of all of this, is what we now have at the RAIC is a facility that is an RAIC, but is also a shelter. And it just is not structured, nor was it planned to function as both of those things. And unfortunately, the fact that it is functioning as both of those things is really, I mean, we are getting frequent complaints about what's happening out there as a result of that, in terms of it's just not a good model for both sets of children. It doesn't help the youngsters who are there who haven't dealt with some of the long-term issues and the trauma issues that the older kids who have been in and out have, and now they're exposed to it. And unfortunately, it's also not really set up to take care of those older kids. And so at this point, we want to continue to work collaboratively to do whatever we can to assist, to not just have an oversight saying, oh, this isn't working, because right now there are issues out there and it's not working. Everybody's working very hard to try to resolve them, but we really do think that people have to work way, collaboratively together. And that's indeed one of the problems even right now. Mental health is doing its very best to be there every day, because in order to work truly collaboratively, you need to be having some interaction with each other. And although they have done a lot to try to modify that, it's still problematic. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Dick. I'm the Vice Chair of the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I actually just have two questions I was hoping we can clarify maybe at some point. The first is, has the NBOR contract been signed? And if it has, for how many years is that facility going to be used for? And what's the contract good for? And if you've approved it, because it's only 6 weeks away. And the second is, has the East Valley co-location project, which we do support, has that been approved by the Board of Supervisors? Has that been budgeted? And is there a time frame? And is there anything that we can do to help along in that process? As I'm not really too sure exactly where we're at in that process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have the answer to either of those questions?
So in terms of the timing and the duration and the issues of MBORG, what I would caution is that all of this is still currently in negotiation. So there's no answers to that yet, and there's not a lot more we can say about it at this point. In terms of the conversation around East Valley, what I would say there is we would defer to the administration in terms of the plan that's been part of their capital planning. The last conversations we had was we were in about a 5-year window, but I don't know if that's the latest.
Yeah,
and
the last conversation I had with anybody, we were 5 to 10. And so I would say that, one of the concerns, I think I've shared this with the committee, the group that came to see me a couple of times, is that my concern about East Valley is that it's pretty far off in the horizon. And so I'm uncomfortable with waiting for that. My own feeling is that we're going to have to be a little bit flexible, because I'm going to be interested in seeing what projects are going to come online in what time frame that may or may not be more suitable. I think from a next steps perspective, I think in January, February, March timeframe, I think we're going to have a much deeper conversation about what's happening with our health and hospital system. In part, just not to be too obvious, but we're in the process of trying to buy 3 additional hospitals, which I think is going to have significant impact on what gets invested in over what time frame. And one of my concerns is that whether it's East Valley or any number of other actions that are happening relative to the health and hospital system, is that all of those will have to be examined in a very new light. And I think, just to be intellectually forthcoming about it, that we can't add the kind of capacity we're adding without having a deeper dive into what are the implications of that for capital investments across the system, in what order will they be invested in, and the like. So while I think that you all have been very clear that there's a high level of interest in the East Valley Clinic, I think as part of this this budget process, I'm going to want to have a deeper dive in understanding where that's going to come online. If I'm concerned about it being too far out, I'll be asking my colleagues to look at other options. I don't know if, Dave, if you want to add anything. Okay.
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
And I think as it relates to the rake, the reason I was asking for a little more research is I actually think the timing ends up being good. Again, when we started this conversation, I didn't know that the hospitals were even going to be available to us. So I think, again, as part of the discussion we have with capital investments overall, keeping in mind what are the actual programmatic goals that we need to hit is just going to be critical to any recommendation that either comes from, you know, SSA in terms of what your needs are, but even SSA in partnership with the hospital system. So more to come on that. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Francesca, for that. And what we'll do is we're going to move on to item 12. I'll thank everybody for coming for that item. Item 12, which is our senior tax. And Dave, I think this is your project. So I'm not sure who's presenting on this item. I actually have that in my notes, but I'm on the wrong page.
I can.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I can just give a brief overview, and I think we may have a speaker or two.
Yeah, we have one.
One, okay. So we'll hear from the speaker. I mean, it's really a report in just asking, you know, initially for this committee to receive the report, but I do think what we need to, or I'd ask you to consider as chair of this committee, having a subsequent hearing where we invite the school districts to come in or send representatives in, either a full open public hearing as a study session attached to this committee, or some kind of ad hoc process where, in any case, we would bring them in and try to get everybody in the room to talk about compliance. So I gave you the conclusion first, but the issue is that we've received reports over the past year or more, including a grand jury report, but also citizens reports. I mean, our constituents, our seniors, you know, coming to us saying that there's an uneven application of state law regarding the requirements to uniformly apply the rules to seniors who would be eligible for parcel tax exemptions in school districts. There have been legislative changes over the years, and it's not clear that what's pretty clear that they aren't being comported with across the board by all school districts that have parcel taxes that should be following the rules, making sure that they're informing and educating people as to how to apply, and then not requiring redundant applications year after year for people who have already established their eligibility. So what does it have to do with us? You know, it isn't a direct county jurisdiction, although obviously the county is involved in the tax collecting process. I think where it has to do with us is we have seniors out there that we are providing senior nutrition to, that we are providing all kinds of social service help to. I mean, we are trying to have an age-friendly community. We're not only on board with that, but leading that campaign. You know, the beat goes on in terms of everything that we're trying to do to make sure that we're calibrating and recalibrating services to deal with a larger and larger aging population, and all the while we have a real easy relief item that they're already entitled to, which is a reduction in what would otherwise be their property tax bill, and they're not getting it. And the legislature's taken action to make sure that they do get it, but again, there's a compliance issue. What is not in your packet, and my office did it, and it actually should have been submitted as a supplemental of sorts, is a survey that we did. I sent letters out to every school district that has a parcel tax in Santa Clara County and asked them a series of questions in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing it, and whether or not, in effect, whether or not they're comporting with state law. And we got a few non-responses. I'm happy to say most responded, but the non-responses are particularly troubling. And then it seemed to me, based on the responses, that there's an acknowledgement of sort of non-compliance by some of them. So with that, I'd like to hear from the speaker, and who will probably amplify or expand on or correct anything that I misspoke about. If it's the speaker I'm thinking of, which is
Don.
Mr. Eberhard is in the audience, who's really was instrumental in bringing this to our attention and has been beating the drum for a long time to make sure that there's justice in this regard. But at the end of his comments, I'd just like to see us in the chair's office take under advisement the idea of putting a hearing together right away and calling people in and trying to use whatever convening power we have to get people to actually come in and take some corrective actions. So.
Great.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, Supervisor Cortese. Nice to see you, Cindy. It's been a long time since Lee Weimer's retirement banquet, I think I saw you at. But ultimately, I am a senior. I've been a resident of Santa Clara County since 1979. I am a homeowner in two districts, Moreland School District and Campbell Unified High School District. And to kind of just bullet point the key issues, it involves awareness, it involves a flawed, cumbersome, and in some place in compliance with the law situation which Supervisor Cortese alluded to, a lack of consistency and a lack of oversight. And in essence, I am a senior. I'm going to be 70 next year. The rights and the welfare of seniors are not really being protected. I've addressed this issue to AARP and to a number of different people, and ultimately it went to the civil grand jury that took the case, and they did do a very good job. The disappointment there was there's no teeth in the civil grand jury, which was a learning process for me. But going back to awareness, first off, the school districts, and this is an awareness issue for the whole state. This isn't just Santa Clara County. Seniors are not being made aware that they have this opportunity to apply for exemption. Now, I agree that school taxes are important. It's part of the infrastructure responsibility. But many seniors, and in fact, Supervisor Cortese met a lady that's director of Heart of the Valley Services for Seniors, one of the many organizations I support, and she alluded to the fact that a lot of seniors, they're feeding their pets before they feed themselves because they're living on a thread. So in the case of my two school districts, it's over $250 additional over and beyond your school taxes, and then all the other things that are assessments. So it is a state issue. It's a county issue. We had a meeting with Supervisor Cortese on February 22nd with his chief of staff. I presented the civil grand jury things, additional things. I also found out this was in Napa actually presented to the civil grand jury up there. Again, it is statewide. In terms of the flawed process, as Supervisor Cortese mentioned, as a result of the civil grand jury, January 1, 17, a new law was passed, which was referenced, I think, in the agenda item, that indicated that once you've applied for this exemption, you don't have to reapply. And with that, for instance, Moreland School District, on their website and today, they're requiring seniors to personally come into the office to apply. Many seniors don't drive.
Yeah.
Many seniors have people that are...
Don, I'm going to ask you just to wrap it up, just because your time is up, your time limit.
Okay. Lack of consistency among school districts, and ultimately there's lack of oversight. I've asked the supervisor to bring this to the attention of the Board of Supervisors, to Senator Bell, and to investigate this. And the civil grand jury says a lot, and he's been given an exhaustive amount of information, which I've offered as an unpaid consultant to the county and the state to do this. And ultimately, why I've sat through this meeting as long as I have is to appeal to the Board of Supervisors and through you as our representatives for all seniors, not just me, to get compliance, consistency, and respect for the rights of seniors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions for me that I can answer, Supervisor Chavez?
Actually, I don't right yet, but I do have an idea, but thank you very much. You know, I think you raised a really interesting point about using the committee as an opportunity to do a hearing, and I like that idea. And one of the things that we might want to do is invite Jim, Senator Bell, along with I think Senator Wojciechowski, and the only reason I recommend him is he seems to understand a lot more about tax rules and laws, and I think he's done a good job of sticking up for kind of the little guy from that perspective. And there are 2 senators, and I think we can do that on our own, and maybe invite. We'll have to think a little bit about the assessor and some other folks that we might want to invite.
Maybe the tax collector's office.
Yeah, the tax collector's office. Yeah, and I would say, right, I think if it were easily in somebody's, one person's job basket, we would focus on that one person. But I think we have a little more research to do. And that's partly why the purpose of a hearing really is to air all of that and to come up with a plan. So I think that's a really good idea about the Board of Equalization. But what I will do is ask, we're going to take an action. So we don't have any more questions for you. So stay, hang tight.
Last, I'd like to, I offered Supervisor Cortese my time to his chief of staff and
You've been,
the Board of Supervisors here if I could be of further assistance.
you've been very helpful.
Yeah,
We'll stay in
absolutely.
touch.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for staying with us. But if we could do this, I think there would be value in us doing 2 things at the same time. One is sending out some invitations to at least have as part of one of these meetings, a discussion to dive into that. And I think because, there's some time our senators have, we could work around their schedule to do something here. But, and I love your idea about the tax collector. I think the Board of Equalization is actually a good point. But what I was actually thinking about is on the communication side, I wonder if there's an opportunity for us, even if it's via the county, to put together, for lack of a better word, sort of a communication plan as part of the work you've been doing on, on senior living, through to be able to get this information out about how people do it, so that, because in some ways I think the point about transparency is the part that's most missing, and we do communicate with every county taxpayer, property owner, directly. So why couldn't we play a leadership role in communicating the what's required and what we think, frankly, even making it easier for people to do that with a helpline here.
I think that's great. I think the Office of Aging Services, Social Services, has done a great job of building a network among providers who are dealing with seniors all the time, as well as the cities, and having them involved in whatever we decide to do in terms of the county, bootstrapping up an information education campaign to get those applications in. I've noticed in my visits to senior centers, senior nutrition centers, when we ask people who are homeowners if they're aware, to Mr. Eberhard's point and your point, people are, I would say, for the most part, oblivious, and they would like assistance, in terms of getting the process going. And it does mean a lot to them. If it's a couple hundred or a few $100s a year is a lot of money, of course, to somebody on fixed income. That was the point I was trying to make earlier about, we're supporting people on the one hand, and then having another agency basically take the money right away from them with the other hand. So I like your overall sort of plan or scheme for making sure all the right people are in the room when we have a hearing. So if legislators need to go put some teeth into the legislation beyond what they've done, like perhaps a rule that says if you don't follow the rules, you have to disgorge the money that you've collected. who knows? But in the meanwhile, we can do a lot more in terms of awareness and education. So.
Well, and then the second thing I would just ask, and Greta, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I think this is going to fall under county council's purview more than anybody else's, which is, when we've done these hearings in the past, one of the things that's really gotten us off on the right foot is the I'm just a law, the matrix of what happens now. And I think the point you raised about what people have on their different websites and, all of the actual law, the way it's being interpreted in our county and the method that the average senior would have to go through. And I say that mostly because I think if we're all starting with the same deck, then actually we can dive into what are some of the solutions. Is that all right with you, Dave?
That's great. And by the way, we'll share we have an actual matrix of all the responses we've received.
Oh, great.
A spreadsheet that is very organized and gives all the responses that we've received from the school districts that might help sort of highlight the nature of the problem a little bit more for county council. And
that's great. That would be super helpful.
Great to have them involved.
So we're going to request some information of county council. We will ask our staff here to help us schedule a, for lack of a better word, a hearing with our senators in particular. I am mostly thinking about them along with Board of Equalization. And then, Dave, anybody else you want us to make sure we invite?
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
I think process-wise, we're allowed to work on making sure the agenda is correct. So my staff can work either through county council or through social services and your office to make sure the agenda is right.
Great.
For that hearing.
Perfect.
Thank
Amy,
you.
You're good. And who on your staff's working on that?
Kevin Lee and Mike Donahoe have primarily been
Great.
working on it.
Oh, good. And then Amy will coordinate with you. All right. Well, we will be pulling together a hearing. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us for so long. We really appreciate it. We're going to move on then to item 13, and this is a verbal report from our Social Services Director and then from DCSS. Welcome.
Good afternoon. So keeping on the theme of seniors, I wanted to give a quick update on the Home Safe program. As folks may remember, Assembly Bill 1811 and this last year's budget, state budget, authorized the creation of this program as $15 million statewide for a 2-year period, kind of one-time funding. The program was created to support the safety and housing stability of individuals involved in APS, and it's to provide housing-related assistance and evidence-based practices for homeless assistance and prevention. The California Department of Social Services released their RFP for this program recently, so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because there's one issue with it. So we're in the midst of putting our proposal together. The proposal itself requires a dollar-for-dollar match. We're currently looking at the scope of program and deciding what the appropriate scope would be, but we're estimating, let's say, somewhere in the $1 million range where we would have to then match with another $1 million. We believe there's a variety of sources that are allowed to count as match, and we believe we should be able to come up with that between the variety of services and programs that the county administers. The difficulty that we have is that this RFP is due back to the state on the 3rd of December. And normally when there's a dollar-for-dollar match or something like that, we like to inform the board of our intent to apply. And what I think we're going to need to do here is one of two things. We're talking with the state to see if we can get that pushed out further so that the counties can have time to go to their boards to socialize this. And if that isn't to take place, what we do plan to do is provide notice to the county exec that we're in the process of applying for this, and then the notice can file through. But we may not have time to do our formal typical notice to the board. We just wanted to let folks know we're very anxious to participate in this program, and we're hopeful that the state will work with us. But if it doesn't, we have a little bit of a logistics problem that we hope to be able to work through with the administration and the board. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Ignacio?
Hi, I just wanted to provide an update on the impact of the Camp Fire. on our colleagues in Butte County. If you remember, Butte County, our colleagues up in that child support office, take all of our customer calls for Santa Clara County customers, and been in contact with their director and their staff this last week. Unfortunately, they had to close their office for a few days because of the impact of the fire, and also, unfortunately, 8 of their staff lost their homes in that fire. So our staff is in the midst of doing a collection for donations and gift cards to be able to send to them, to provide some assistance and help during this difficult time. The good news is no one in the office lost their life. None of their relatives or friends did either, so that's good because it is the deadliest fire now in the history of California. So our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and we will be putting a donation packet together for them and for our friends and colleagues up in Butte County. But the office is now reopened, and they are back to providing services, but they're still working through, obviously, the damage that's happened up there. So just wanted to mention that and make all of you aware of what we're trying to do to assist them.
Ignacio, thank you, and share our concern and thoughts and prayers with them also. That's amazing that they're online again already.
Yeah,
really.
they were only down for a few days, and they were able to come back up, so that's great news.
What, are they in Chico?
Yes,
Okay.
they're in actually in Oroville.
Okay. Way up there. Yeah. Thank you. We're going to adjourn our meeting until Tuesday, December 11th at 10 a.m. Thank you, everyone.